Turret time. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude and part number 4 of the Academy 135th Scale U.S. Marine Corps M50A1 Ontos. Alright, in the last episode, I started with step 5, which is this back plate for the upper hull. Got that in place, and then did all of the components for the upper hull, both sides. All of the parts, nothing really to talk about because they all fit very well, no problems, and it all worked out really good. So with that being complete, I'm now ready to move on to step number 9, which starts with the turret for all of these gnarly looking guns. So just like last time, I'm going to start cutting parts off, talking a little bit about it as I glue them together, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I need to do a little bit of work since I'm going to have this upper hatch open for the one figure. I need to take care of the ejector pin marks inside of this hatch. So what I did is I filled those in with some black slow dry cyanoacrylate. So I gotta let that dry. So while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some of this sub-assembly type stuff. And like this here, these parts here, and start getting that stuff ready because I need to give that plenty of time to dry. I can also start assembling these guns as well, but let's do that first. All right, while that black CA glue is drying, curing, etc., I have started cutting some of these other parts off. Now here's something to note: B70 and 72 and B69 and 71. It shows 2 holes, and obviously there's 2 pins on the other side. So we have the part with the 2 pins, check. Part with 2 holes, not check. So I don't know what happened, but somewhere in the molding process or the design, they did not get those molded. So with that in mind, these parts don't go together on the one side. The one side, the pin works fine. The other side, it does not. So what needs to be done is this pin here gets cut off. Make sure it is flush. Then I can glue it using the 1 pin and just make sure it is aligned properly. No big deal. Quite simple, but something to look for. Now something else to look for is this shallow disc shaped thing here. That is not an ejector pin mark, so don't remove it because it clearly shows it in the instructions. All right, so I shall carry on. All right, here's a little tip. So I'm installing these 2 parts here onto this ring, this turret, whatever it is. Like, not really a turret. I mean, I guess it's a turret, but it's more of a ring kind of thing with some stuff on it. But is it a turret? Whatever. So what I'm doing is I put those both on there. And not everybody has this, but I just happen to have this awesome grid paper here, graph paper, whatever you want to call it. And in order to make sure it's lined up that way and this way, I glued them on there. I'm just making sure this is all aligned with this line here and making sure that these parts are both laying totally flat on the paper, which has a cutting mat underneath, and making sure that it's all lined up so it doesn't look wonky when it's put together, because apparently that seems to be a point of contention with these things is it seems like getting all these guns to line up properly to where they're all, you know, perfectly in line with each other is kind of a toughie. So I'm thinking this part here, amongst other things, will help alleviate that problem. So next part, assemble this machine gun, shield and mount. Less the machine gun, I'll put that on later because, you know, I'll paint that separately and get that mounted to this part here. Okay, so this is done, and I've got the ammo box is put together, but they've got a weird seam on it. Instead of making the lid a separate thing, there's a seam around it. So I put some the black slow drying CA glue on there to use as a filler. This one is drying. I had to add some more. On this one, I put some of Mr. White putty on here. So I'm on the ejector pin marks. I'm going to kind of compare the two and how they clean up and sand. And then this part here is just awaiting all the rest of that stuff to get done. So while that stuff is all curing up, I'll move on to step 10 and start putting these recoilless rifles together. All right, here's a quick demo thing. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have seen these things here. It is a professional sanding frame by Flexifile, www.flexifile.com. And what it is, this is mainly for people who have not seen these things in use before. What you get in one of these is you can order the frame, and this isn't going to come out. There we go. You can order the frame, and it's just a piece of aluminum with these machined tips here, or whatever you want to call them. And it comes with, I don't remember how many of these it came with, but you can buy extras, and they come in different grits. Now, the one I have, there's like this little bit coarser grit. I don't know what the actual grit is, but it's actually pretty fine. But there's a coarse, a medium, and a fine. And in this case, because the seam lines, the mold seam lines on these things are so almost non-existent, I don't need to start out with the coarse one. But they just fit. They have like a pre-made loop kind of thing. And it just fits on here like this. And this thing, as you can see, is bowed out just a little bit, so it makes a little bit of tension. And then all you do is on curved surfaces, you just do this number. And the nice thing is because it is flexible, it's less prone to create a flat spot. Now you still got to kind of rotate it a little bit because you don't want to make it all oblong looking either. But it actually works really well. And you just do this number on it. Get rid of the mold seam line. And then once you do one grit, then you move on to the next. Very simple to install. And then you just give it a polish like that. Get any residual scratches or anything left, and boom, you got yourself a nice smooth surface. So just thought I'd demonstrate that real quick. I've had one of these for a while, and I have found it to be rather useful on curved surfaces, barrels, stuff like that. So just thought I'd do a quick demo on that. So I'll get back to putting this together and then come back once one of them is assembled. All right, so there is the first gun. So this isn't a quick procedure, I can tell you, but it just takes a little patience, and it's not too bad. And probably the hardest, I don't want to say the hardest, but the most tedious part was gluing this little this little piece in here because yeah, but it's not bad. So anyway, there's the first gun. Now I've got to do 4 like this. So I'm going to do these, and I'll set them aside, and I can work on some of these while these are drying up. I'll set that aside. All right, here's where it sits. So I've got the last 2 guns here, and I've left them in my drying tweezers because I have to remember to cut this little part off right there. That little protrusion needs to be cut off on 2 of them. So those are done. All the rest of the other 4 are done. So the guns are complete. Now the thing I'm going to do next is, well, let me show you the turret. I've got all the parts done on that. I've got the this armored shield here for the machine gun. I've got the hatch in place. I got the holes filled in. Got these 2 parts glued on here. So I need to glue, so basically I'm ready to go to step 11. So I've got to glue these in place, and they go underneath here. And then I'm pretty much going to be ready for primer, because these guns are not the same color as the rest of the vehicle. Now some of them, some photos I've seen they are, but those are like vehicles that are sitting on, you know, some military or museum ground somewhere that have been painted overall probably to protect them. But in period photos, some other photos, these guns are a black color. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not going to be a pure black. I'll probably use tire black, just because it's kind of a faded, dirty looking black, and then I'll be doing some weathering on top of that. But that's going to be the plan. So what I'm going to have to do is these parts here, these little clamps that glue these, or that hold these guns in place, I'm going to have to cut those out in such a way that I can spray them while attached to the sprue. Like for this, like these 2 clamps right here, for instance, what I will do is I will cut here and here, and then I'll cut this piece out. Then I'll just cut this chunk of sprue out, because where this last sprue gate is underneath where it's going to be glued anyway. So that way I can spray them on here and not have to worry about trying to hold them, because I won't be able to brush paint them. So that's going to be the plan for those and the other clamps as well. And that way I can get everything painted at once. I do have to glue these spotting round, for lack of a better term, guns. They're a gun it's a 50 caliber weapon that's attached to this barrel, and it fires out a smaller 50 round cartridge that basically kind of explodes. It's a marker round, so wherever that hits, that's where this recoilless rifle is going to hit. So you can use those to spot with, so these are on target the first time. If that makes sense. So anyway, I need to get those glued on and yeah, we're doing pretty good. And those are actually only, I'm not sure if that's on 1 gun or I think it's on 4 of the guns, it looks like. Yeah, the 4 upper guns. So the 2 lowest guns, which would be this one and the one on the other side, those will be the ones that are that don't have those. So anyway, I am going to Get that stuff glued on there, and then get ready for primer. All right, as you can see here, everything's on sticks, gator clips, whatever you want to call them. So we're ready to shoot some primer on this stuff. So with that, I'm going to call this video quits. So ends part number 4 of the Academy 1/35 scale USMC M50A1 Ontos. Next time when we come back, I'll be shooting primer on this and then paint. So we'll get some color on this thing. So if you enjoyed this video, think about hitting the subscribe button so you can follow along, or maybe watch some other videos. Hit the like button, whatever that does. And yeah, if you have any comments, hints, tips, questions, concerns, experience with this kit, whatever, throw them in the comments section down below. Let me know what you have to say, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I will see you all later.